All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of A Tailor-Made Life, where every conversation is one step closer to designing the life that God has for you. I'm your host, Taylor, and as always, I am so excited to have you back here with me. Let's get right into it, shall we? Last episode, we were discussing the differences, the pros and the cons between being a business owner versus being in corporate America. And so I figured that this week we could segue ourselves right on into the big topic of discussion, the thing that you need the absolute most when working in either corporate America or being a business owner, and that is professionalism, right? Let's get into what professionalism is. How do we develop it? What does it mean? What does it look like for you? Now, for myself, I can say that I used to think that professionalism only looked a certain way, right? It only sounded a certain way. You know, it was you code switching or you dressing up or all of these things that kind of came along with being a professional back in the day. But as we know, it's 2026, right? So we are constantly redefining what professionalism is and what it looks like for you. It's something that, you can develop in real time and, of course, tailor it to your life. Now, I'd say if I had to define what professionalism is to me, I'd say that it's holding a certain level of respect and reverence for the work that you do and showing that through your skills and your appearance. When you have a respect and a reverence for something, right, you hold it to a higher regard. You make sure that you are prepared for it. You make sure that you are informed about it and that you're readily equipped with everything you need to complete that. And you show that through, again, how much time you put toward it, how you show up for it. That is, for me, is what being a professional really is. It's the foundation. Now, if I had to then break that up into two things, the emergence between your competence and your personality. Those two in tandem make a professional, right? I'll explain more. Let's start with the foundation, right? The main thing of being a professional is your competence, is what I'm going to keep saying that because you must know what you're talking about. In order to be a professional in any sense of the word, you have to put in the work. You must be prepared, be organized, being reliable, speaking from a place of truth, right? Knowing what you're talking about is the main component of being a professional. You cannot go anywhere and call yourself anything of the sort if you don't know what you're talking about, okay? Now, breaking that down even further, I learned very quickly that organization is the absolute key. If you don't hear anything else from this episode, is that being organized and being a professional are like one, right? They blend together. Now, whatever that looks like for you is up to you. Now, but you have to find whatever organizational system that works for you. That's most efficient for your working environment and just who you are as a person. So whether that's color coding your emails or, organizing your desktop interface a little differently or using Notion or a planner or even writing it down, just pen and pencil, right? Whatever that way of keeping yourself organized and keeping your thoughts on track, whatever system works for you, please find it now. That is essential to propelling yourself in any field. I don't care if it's corporate America or, a creative field or if you're a teacher or whatever the case is. Being organized, being on top of your things, your thoughts and your work should have a flow to it, right? So yeah, I know for myself, I've had to play with a few different ways of organizing just my desktop alone, right? Just the interface of my computer. How does it look when I first open my laptop? How does my information display, right? I've had to put things into folders. I've had to label and color code and be able to find things quickly. It's nothing worse, in my opinion, than being in a meeting or talking to someone and they ask you a question and you're scrambling through emails looking for the answer, right? Like that is, like, it makes my skin crawl. Only because being prepared, being professional means that you've already accounted for the fact that they may ask this question, right? So you already have all your information up. You already have that email thread up. This meeting is going to be about the tax rates in Minnesota. Okay, well, being a professional means that you skimmed through your notes, you've created more notes, you've highlighted, you prepared yourself for this meeting. The only way you're going to be able to do that efficiently is by being organized, is by being able to account for where this information is. Where have you stored it, okay? So yeah, organization, man, it's the thing that can either earn or break trust. Somebody who's organized means that's somebody you can trust. Somebody who's scrambling all over the place, it breaks that trust, right? Because it's like, oh, this person don't really know, they don't even know where the information is. This person isn't even organized. How can they answer my question efficiently if they don't even know what they're doing, right? It's like when you go to a store, you can always tell who's the newest cashier because they're scrambling around, they don't really know where things are, versus you speaking to a manager, they have a system in place, right? They have a flow, they have more knowledge, right? They've been there longer, but they have a sense of confidence, a sense of flow, if you will. And it's only because they've organized themselves in such a way. And so, yeah, that's how you earn or you break that trust within your work. It's through your organization. Like I said, your thoughts should have a structure. When you speak, you should feel clear and grounded. That's only going to come if you're organized. It's only going to come if you know where your things are, where your information is, where you've written things at. That organization is going to be, again, essential. Next big thing, this is huge too, is speaking from a place of truth. Now, I'm going to say all of these things are big because they are all important. But speaking from a place of truth is, I can't even describe how important that part is, because just as being organized earns or breaks that trust, speaking from a place of truth also has the power to either set you up for the next 10 years or set you back for the next 15 years. Contributing truthfully, speaking from a place of truth, having informed opinions, making informed decisions, or just speaking facts, right? In certain aspects, when an opinion is warranted, when you're in a less formal position, when we're speaking about our opinions and, we're just kind of speaking loosely, right? I still believe that your opinion, even about things, should come from an informed place, And when you are speaking in more professional settings and business meetings or whatever the case is, you're meeting with higher ups or your managers, you should be speaking from a place of truth. When it is time for you to contribute to a room, bring the facts, right? And that goes back to being prepared, taking a reverence and a respect for your work. Bring facts when you're contributing to a room, when you're contributing to a conversation, when you're speaking or something that has something to do with your work and your name. Speak factually. Be prepared. Take the extra time to go through and look at your notes and make informed decisions. Have informed conversation. As you grow in your career, the conversations that you have will not reflect the obvious things, right? The conversations that you will then start to have will be assuming that you have the base level of amount of information. Now let's talk about perspective. You can't really dive into what your perspective is if you're not informed on the basics. And so, yeah, that's the main thing, right? We want to just make sure that our decisions and our opinions, our thoughts, our conversations are heavily influenced by the truth, by things that we know are factual, so you don't sound incompetent. And I'll give an example. Most recently, I had a really, really big show. And I knew it was going to be a lot of commotion. I knew it was going to be a lot of back and forth. This was like a big K-pop group, and they were, they did 2 sold-out shows in my market. So, we knew this was going to be huge. There was going to be a lot of conversation, right? And so I took it upon myself to, before going into one of the first meetings, we had to have had like a few meetings by this, just discussing, various things about the show or whatever. But there was a discrepancy that came up that was brought to my attention. And so before even taking a meeting with the team, I went ahead before them and started to study the key points of my settlement. Now, for me, in my line of work, that means looking at taxes, looking at how much we've spent versus how much we've made. That's looking at, expenses and like minor details that have to do with money. I took the time to study that, right? I'm asking questions that they could possibly ask me, right? And I knew what the discrepancy was about, so it gave me a little bit of an upper hand to kind of know what to study or know what to prepare for. And so we get into the room, get into the meeting, and they're going back and forth. It's a lot of hoopla, a lot of back and forth, and I'm just listening, right? I start off, I'm only listening, and when the problem is then presented to me, I take a look at it and I propose a question. Now, this question that I proposed came from, of course, me knowing the facts, right? Knowing what is to be true about this market, knowing what is to be true about this particular settlement, right? From there, I assessed the problem. So what problem was the team having versus what we could do to solve it, right? And then I proposed a possible solution, a simple, right, that did not necessarily solve the whole problem, right? It didn't solve everything about what was going on in that situation, but it did progress the conversation forward, right? It did allow for us to kind of transition into a different phase of solving the problem. Again, minor in some aspects, but imagine if I wasn't prepared. Imagine if I didn't contribute anything into the conversation, or better yet, if I contributed something and it was wrong and it wasn't based off of the facts, right? I wouldn't have been trusted to say anything else again. Like everything I would have said would have been like, we don't really know if we can trust it because you gave us a piece of information that wasn't true. Or you haven't really said anything. You haven't contributed anything. It just kind of makes you look unprepared, And I'm not saying that you should be trying to speak up in every situation, right? Some conversations, some meetings don't require you to say anything. But during that time when you are expected to speak up, people want to hear what you have to say. Be prepared for it. That's a real professional. It's almost like getting ready for school. On that first day of school, what are you doing? You putting out your clothes, you pulling out your shoes, you making sure that your hair is done, you're making sure that you got your hair cut. Like, you're preparing, you have a reverence, there's respect there for the first day. It's the same thing with your work. Real professionalism, like everything else, is doing the work when no one is watching. It's doing the work when no one is expecting you to do the work, right? You put the work in when no one is watching, and so that when people are watching, you are able to stand in confidence. You're able to stand firm when everybody is watching. They know that when you walk into the room, hey, she's gonna have something to say that could help us. Every one is not gonna be a home run, but I'd rather you take a swing and miss than not take the swing at all. So yeah, that's kind of like the first part, right? Is making sure that when you walk into the room, the most prepared, the most informed, the most knowledgeable as you possibly can be for that particular situation and for the work that you do. Now, the next part 2, this is where your personality is. This is where you tailor it to your life. This is my favorite part. Like, once you've studied everything, once you know your stuff and you've studied your craft and you feel confident enough to speak on it, how you actually present it, how you interpret it, how you use that to then fuel your conversations is totally up to you. Right? That's where your personality comes in, because truth be told, as you grow in your career, everybody's going to know the information. Everybody's going to be informed. Everybody's going to know just about the same amount of information about the job, right? The thing that separates you from the pack is your personality, how you present yourself, how you interpret the information, how you use that to then make your decisions, right? All of those things come down to who you are. You and me can look at the same data set and interpret it a totally different way, right? We can look at the same amount of numbers, the same amount of data, right? And come up with different plans, different solutions to solve the problem. That is what makes you separate from the pack. But there are some things that go into tailoring it. The first thing is acting like you got some sense. Simply put, read the room. You know, like you got to read the room sometimes. I think I don't mistake this for having to conform or, you know, participate in this respectability politics, BS, whatever. But there is the sense of, you know, everything has a time, right? Read the room. Act like you got some sense. Don't go in there trying to be the loudest, trying to be the smartest, trying to prove your point in every scenario, every situation. It's not necessary. You know, like that kind of goes hand in hand with a maturity level. And your maturity level, I think, it plays into your professionalism, right? I think a lot of the times it's your best bet to go in and observe first. Read how other people act in this situation. What is the social norm? What are the societal norms for this particular space or this particular working environment? Go in, observe that first, be cognizant, be aware of that, and tailor it to how you act in real life. Don't try to be the standout, right? Let your work and let your light shine through. Let that stand out for you. Don't try to be a standout because it looks performative. Like, you can obviously tell when somebody is trying too hard. Don't be that person. Read the room, excel in the room, and then move on. The next thing, right, is your appearance, which, you know, is my favorite part. I've always loved the business casual look. You're growing in blazers in middle school, right? But honestly, since being in concerts and being in touring world, right, I've had to scale it back to accommodate for comfortability and the long hours that I work. And that kind of goes into reading the room. People see you before they hear you, right? And so I always lead with that. Like, I always make sure that I'm put together in some way, some form. I don't care whether I'm wearing a hoodie that day or if I'm wearing slacks and a button up. Like, I, you know, play around, I mix and match my highs and my lows, right? And I put them together to create a look that is tailored for me, first and foremost. And then it's also appropriate for the space, for the working environment. So I'll do slacks with sneakers, or I'll do a hoodie with slacks, or I'll do a buttoned up with jeans. Like, I always mix and match it, but it always comes together as an appropriate look. If I'm being honest, I don't think that we struggle with that part, right? I don't doubt for a second that anybody who's listening right now, you know, isn't dressed to the nines when they go to work, and that's perfectly okay. Like, I'm all for it, right? But there's a balance. I don't want us to be the best looking person in the room, and then when you actually talk to them, they don't know anything. So you the one who got the best outfit on, right? But you don't know anything. When people ask you a question, you like a deer caught in headlights. You know, that doesn't match, right? Or maybe you are the smartest in the room. Maybe you do know the most. Maybe you are prepared, but people look over you because you're not dressed in the part. You know, you don't look the part. You don't look like somebody that would know something, right? And so, you know, take those things into account. Like, I'm not saying if dressing up isn't really your thing, I'm not saying you have to go and be the next top model. But look the part, right? Take some respect, take some reverence in how you look and how you appear and how you present yourself so that people can take you a little bit more seriously. Honestly, like, I take people seriously who have the, you know, who are dressed up, who look groomed and well put together. Yeah, they look like they know something. If you ain't got nothing going on, if you don't look like you got nothing going on, then this is that. But yeah, like I said, there's a balance, right? Because you don't want to be, again, the prettiest in the room, the most handsome in the room, but you don't know nothing. That's what a true professional is, though. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about being more intentional about who you already are, right? So know your stuff, man. Carry yourself with respect and tailor the rest. Because before you walk into any room, people should be able to feel that you take your role seriously before you even say a word. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments how you're feeling. I've been getting a lot of feedback from you guys. I'm so happy about it. Like, I'm just so excited to connect and to just move this journey further along. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know how professionalism looks up for you and, you know, how you show up as a professional. So yeah, till next time, bye.